Good morning. This is sort of a quick version of Ralph Reviews It, occasioned by reading the news this morning. Sometimes a story just leaps out at you, get your heart pounding. In my case, the stories that get my heart pounding tend to be with people who try to do the right thing, those who uncover official wrongdoing, those who say, look, I'm going to go on the line for this, and I'm going to let you know about what I've seen, and I cannot correct it within the internal boundaries. The mechanisms to correct wrongdoing are broken because they're in favor of those who want those wrongdoings to continue unnoticed. What happened this morning is I happened to be reading my usual start for the news of the day, which is the Drudge Report. Don't judge me. I know some people will. But Drudge is a great place for a series of links that take you to all sorts of stories. So let me get to what I saw. Da-da-da. So I'm reading Drudge, and I see that this headline, her leaks exposed global corruption. Now she's in prison. You know what leapt to mind right away? Edward Snowden, the man who let us all know with incontrovertible proof that the National Security Agency was tracking all of us, was following everything we did, was harvesting private information, treating everybody as a potential terrorist. For doing that, Edward Snowden is now exiled to Russia, the place where he got forced down because his plane, if he went anywhere else, would have been tracked and he would have been arrested and taken to jail. Nobody's ever denied that whatever Edward Snowden said was true. Most people, when they hear the details of how badly the NSA was breaking the Constitution against its own citizens, would hail him as a hero. Despite that fact, he can't come home. Now, we hear a lot from him because of his electronic communications. The man's brilliant. Watch his interview with Joe Rogan that was, I think, about 3 hours long. There's no proof. There's no doubt this man's a patriot. He did the right thing. Think of Julius Assange, who's been hounded nearly to death and had to hide out in an embassy on spurious charges because he had the temerity to leak private information from corporations that were doing wrong and from politicians, such as, of course, the Hillary emails. WikiLeaks is a national institution. It should be. And I remember when I first found out that the NSA, if you went to wikileaks.org, the NSA automatically tracked your IP address and treated you as a potential suspect, simply because you went to the website. Well, to me, this is another example. So, her leaks exposed global corruption. Now she's in prison. Let's go to the story, shall we? This is what I saw. Now, I've heard nothing about this woman, nothing at all. And I'm a pretty avid consumer of news. Here's the headline. Her leaks exposed global financial corruption. Now she's in prison. Former Treasury Department official Natalie Edwards said she's a whistleblower who sent suspicious activity reports to BuzzFeed News after trying in vain to work through lawful channels. Her actions became the basis for the global FinCen files investigation. FinCen? I don't even know what that is. Well, you read the story, and this is the end of the story. Let's jump a little bit to the beginning. So apparently what this woman was doing is she exposed that there were these suspicious account activities going on at the major financial institutions in the world. And what these are notices that, hey, this is a shell corporation, and we think there's something wrong with this transaction. And she went into the Treasury Department and tried to go through channels and fight, say, hey, somebody needs to investigate this. She got nowhere. Now, what it turned out is that this was suspicious activity was shell corporations laundering money for drug operations, arms dealers, human trafficking, all kinds of stuff that officially is illegal, that nobody should be making money off of, and yet the Treasury Department would do nothing to investigate this. So she started leaking her files and thousands of documents to BuzzFeed News. BuzzFeed News took it up as an active investigation. Here's the result. The FinCen files provided a final push in Washington, D.C. for passage of a momentous new law, taking aim at one of the most effective money laundering tools cited in the stories, anonymous shell companies. The legislation, passed last week with overwhelming bipartisan support, requires many of these secretive American companies to disclose who owns them and who profits from them. The Corporate Transparency Act marks the most substantial revision to anti-money laws since the Patriot Act in 2001. Provisions of the legislative package, tucked into the annual defense spending bill, also address many of the other systemic problems identified in the FinCen files, which expose the ineffectiveness of government oversight and the myriad ways that banks fail to stanch the flow of dirty money. And the story goes on to talk about how the documents that were released to BuzzFeed and hundreds of other organizations led to an investigation that led to this momentous law fighting corruption. Is this woman a hero? Is she hailed as a hero? Is she hailed as somebody who fought, said we're going to stop helping banks profit off of money laundering? No, she just went to jail for 6 months. She has a 16-year-old daughter. She has a husband. She went to a minimum security prison, which they note was where Billie Holiday and Martha Stewart went. Why did she go to jail? Because technically she broke the law. She released internal documents that were confidential. But she could not get official channels to do the right thing. So despite losing her freedom and most, if not all, of her family's finances waging a legal fight, Edwards maintained she had no regrets, believing her actions will help thwart future criminals and terrorists. I'm absolutely proud of what I did, she said, and I know American lives have been saved. They asked for her to go be in-home incarceration. No, you must go to jail. You must be separated from your family for 6 months because you are a criminal. A criminal for helping stop illegal financial transactions the Treasury Department was aware of and that banks were fully aware they were processing. As her husband said, this is a personal vendetta against her. You're going to put away a lady that got no money, that had no motive other than accountability, that lost everything. Now she's going to lose her freedom for 6 months. Also, you can stop people coming forward. You're the ones who are going to have to look in the mirror. And if you flow through the story here a little bit, you'll see, they went bankrupt practically. They lost their home. They lost their life savings. They lost their health insurance. And the lawyers that was defending her think that that was the point of the court proceedings. Getting her in jail, that's one thing. They wanted to make sure it was financially painful to do what she did. Remember, what she did was the right thing because she had no other option. But let's point out something here. As BuzzFeed News points out, in June, just over a week after Edwards was sentenced, the Pulitzer board at Columbia University named the project a finalist in the international reporting category, quote, for a massive reporting project that yielded sweeping revelations about the ongoing role of some of the world's biggest banks in facilitating international money laundering and the trafficking of goods and people, corruption that continues to frustrate regulators across the world. Even more, BuzzFeed News was nominated for their first Pulitzer Prize and was a finalist in that category. They actually won for another story, that's another story. So, Pulitzer Prize, the finalist, launched an investigation that's going to save people, and she's going to jail to penalize her for doing the right thing. On another topic, there's a whole world of information out there about whistleblowers talking about the thing that occupies all of our attention, the thing that has the headlines on Drudge almost every day and almost everywhere, all news, everything. Let's scroll on up to that. There it is. These headlines are alarming. They're intended to be alarming. But I want to point something out to you. Like secret Soviet literature, samizdat literature, There are videos passed around nowadays. I should back up if you're not old, know what samizdat is. Back in the old days, the Soviet Union had books outlawed. So there was literature that people wanted to read, and they would pass it to each other. Manuscript copies that were secret. Let's stop this sharing real fast. Anyway, there were manuscript copies of illegal books, illegal documents, and they passed them around secretly. Well, on Rumble and BitChute and Telegram and a myriad of other sources other than Facebook and YouTube. Videos are being passed around left and right. Some have dubious credibility. A couple I think are very interesting. But the one thing these people have in common is, especially those that are fully licensed PhDs, medical doctors, is they hesitate to come forward because their careers will be ruined. They will express their doubts. They'll express their concerns with the published laboratory results. They have all sorts of doubts. They don't want to talk about it publicly because they'll get fired. We're seeing this sense of disbelief in official government actions at all levels. And this poor lady is another victim of that, because what's the overriding thing? You have official power, you have the money, you have the politics, and they say, if you expose what we're doing, by God, we're going to make you pay. Even if you're right, we're going to make you pay. All right. So I'm going to post this video on YouTube. I'm going to post it on Facebook. And I'd like you to share this lady's story. As Mrs. Edwards said, instead of the government doing their job, they came after the whistleblower. Mrs. Edwards is in jail now because she did the right thing. Do the right thing. Read this story. Spread it on your social media. We all have Facebook. We all watch YouTube. I'm going to put it on Rumble and BitChute and Telegraph, because this is another case where the powerful, the mighty, are protecting themselves at the expense of those who think that the government institutions, the people in power, should do the right thing, even if it costs them their third vacation home in Costa Rica. Thank you. And I'll do more of these videos. You can tell I felt strong about this because I'm sitting in a ranch that is not my home, using my hotspot Wi-Fi, a slightly inferior built-in webcam, and $6 headphones. Take the time, spread this news, read the story, sign the petition for her to be pardoned. Thank you.